Hello, Internet. Welcome back. We're carrying on with a 7 Med series. I have a fascinating fellow here across me because he's one of these who actually went to do his service and then he went to university and became a doctor. And I'm sure that his experience in 7 Med would have definitely assisted him. But we're going to hear from him. It's Dr. Johan Prins. And he's waiting for us to tell his story. So, Doctor, you're so welcome here, sir. I'm grateful for your time. And let us hear, where did it begin? Were you called up for national service and how did you
Good
end
morning,
up
Chris.
with it?
Yes, it began in 1981 when you're 16 years old and you get you get a telegram that says you must go wear brown clothing. And excuse me. Then at 16, the headmaster writes a letter to I think the minister or the general in charge. He says, "No, give this guy a few more years. He needs to finish his school." So we finished school at 18 years old. You get another telegram the week after your 18th birthday. To me, that was toward the end of June, 83. Got a letter saying you must now come to the force, to the Macht, part of PW and Sons. So on the 12th of January 1984, I boarded the train at Youngsfield. It was a very overcast day. I remember that day distinctly. My parents both wore sunglasses for some reason, even though it was overcast in Cape Town. At Youngsfield, boarded the train, and then so it began. So the train stopped eventually at a little town called Potchefstroom, which I've only heard about in talking. Didn't know where that was. And then we got shouted at. I mean, we were shouted at the whole time on the train anyway. Some guy, some guys actually jumped off the train close to Bloemfontein, and we never heard from them again. So we dropped a few guys in Bloemfontein, and then Potch. We got off the train. Uh, Thank you, my dear. My daughter just brought me some coffee. Um, yeah, we got off and then we got shouted at and bundled into big, nasty looking type of lorries with canvas on it. We were later told that these things are called Samels. So we Samels, and then it was a 16-kilometer drive out to Klipdrift, just outside Potchefstroom. And that's when basics began. And the interesting thing is we were with the Cape guys, so we were basically Alpha Company. And we were there before all the other guys. We came the furthest. The guys from Witbank and the rest of South Africa joined us about 2 weeks later. But in that time, Sergeant Major RSM Ickerman, who was ex-32 Battalion, we would later hear, uh, they they sort of made us fit. So when the other guys got there, we were basically fitter than them, running. But it was all fun. It was all good. So basics finished. Then I did leader group, selected to become a non-commissioned officer, NCO. So I did leader group, got my first stripe, the troop, is it a troopie that got, thank you for coming, you got one line, so you're corporal or lance corporal. Then I did my PTI course, then got my second stripe toward the end of 84, full of piss and paraffin, can I say that? Anyway, um, so then typically army, they got everything wrong at that point in time. So they called five of us to ostensibly go to Pretoria to become ops instructors. But the orders got wrong, so we were sent to Grootfontein. So, so in about October, November of that year, we ended up in Grootfontein, the five of us. And then nobody knew what to do with us. Because what are we doing? They were instructors, we PTIs, we're running around, we're super fit. And then I said, no, we didn't know what to do with you. We didn't have any money. So long time ticky box phoned the parents, listen, transfer somebody to the post office up in Grootfontein. We went to that. And then we hiked back to basically to Windhoek. And then we went to Office Bay. And we had a great time because the flossy pack was only a week later. So, and then we ended up back in Pretoria, and I was an instructor. The first company we had was a sport company. I remember distinctly we had some Springbok rugby players, some Protea or that time still Springbok cricket players, some tennis players, and the rules went out the window with those guys because they were all doctors. So I remember that we used to sometimes do roll call at the New Union Hotel after at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And roll call was never a roll call with a parade. I mean, some of the guys just left; they were not there. So one guy, his father was a prominent cricketer as well. So he would come to me with a roll call book and say, "Corporal, these guys are here. They're sitting inside having a beer. These guys have gone. This guy's gone to his girlfriend, which he later got pregnant apparently." Um, Strange for a doctor to do that. I mean, don't you know where babies come from, doc? Anyway, so then after a sport company, I was given the task of training ops medics. Right? Ops medics, so they had to go to the border, go fight the war. I'm an instructor. Instruction for ops medics. So at the beginning of 1984, we heard about, so there's five national service instructors and two PF instructors, all corporals, PTIs, except one national serviceman. He got hepatitis halfway through our PTI course, so he didn't finish the PTI course. I incidentally got tick bite fever halfway through the thing as this, and going back to 84, I was admitted to the sick bay in Potchefstroom. Then Stas and Harolf phoned the sick bay and said they want to speak to me. We spoke on the telephone. There was a ticky box, you know, the long ticky that you drill a hole through and you put a fishing line on it. You can keep on talking the whole time. Anyway, so I had a long ticket, shows the way the troops. They said to me, "Listen, boy, at the end of this week, we've got PTI finals. We've got the whole battery to do the whole day. If you miss it, you're not going to become a PTI." So I said, "Come fetch me." So there was a lot of AWOLing at that point. And they AWOLed out of Klipdrift in a powder blue Ford Capri. Can you imagine that? So they AWOLed, and then they came to the sick bay in Potchefstroom, fetched me. I AWOLed from the sick bay, never to be seen again close to that sick bay, and went back to Klipdrift actually, and then did my PTI batteries. I felt horrible. I mean, sick bite fever is not your friend, specifically with a headache. Anyway, jumping forward to 85. So there's five national servicemen, two PFs, and then there's the one PF guy. He came to me and said, "Look, I'm going to go back to 84 again. We knew as national servicemen that there was something like special forces. We knew that, and we were told that, and we all, really grensvechter. We want to do that, and what, and special forces actually came to Klipdrift one day, but the whole first battalion, which was the school leavers, we were not there. We were not in the camp because I think maybe Alex Ickerman or Piet Bakkers, he was the officer commanding of Klipdrift. Maybe he had a fallout with special forces or something. But all the school leavers, we were not in camp that day when they came for the PT tests and to ask for volunteers. So when we ran back into the camp, we saw beige Mercedes trucks leave the camp, and we were wondering what was this. And we were later told that no, special forces came to ask for volunteers, but you guys weren't here, so you missed it. So jumping back to 85, Van came to me and he said, "Listen, there's a unit that in medics that sort of, we spoke a lot after hours in the bar running around. But right in the beginning of that ops company, Van and I spoke, and he said he knows about this unit. It's a newly formed unit. It's been run by a guy, and maybe we should think about it, him and I." So we went to RSM Meyer, who was the RSM at that point at Sam's College. And he said, "Yeah, he knows about this unit. It's called 7 Medical Battalion Group, but you can't go." But why? Because they take ops medics and then they train them, and then they become special medics or space medics, and then they go. So Van and I said, well, we have to work around this. We have to make a plan. And we found out who the guy was that was training these guys from ops company to for the fitness and throughout. So it was this son Peterson. So we went to him and we volunteered our services, not as instructors, but as troops. So then we also, Dan and I, we did the ops course. So we were instructors for ops medics, which is a weird thing. But then we also did the course and wrote the exams, the medical exams, and now it becomes interesting because you have to have a certain amount of fitness in you. You know, as an ops medic that goes to Spes Med or to 7 Med, you have to have a certain amount of fitness. So Van and I took turns to be the troopie, so to say. So one day I would be in the squad or in the bus. You know, the bus. You ride the bus. It's basically an opvolk bus. You know. Anyway, so it's state sponsored by the troops, assisted by the medics, you know, and overseen by the officer commanding or the RSM. Anyway, so Van and I took turns in riding the bus, and 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the mornings, we then with the other troops that wanted to go to 7, three on with Sergeant Peterson, and then we would run around the whole foot at the wacht. Okay, so when that finished, we went to 7, Van and I, as ostensibly to be instructors at Ops Medics, at 7 Med. Then we met a very, very interesting and a very, very lovable, short, round, harsh man, RSM Jimmy May. And immediately it was a love-hate relationship. We loved him. He hated us. He didn't like NDP's national servicemen a lot. He loved Van because Van was beer. Sadly, Van passed away a few years after I tried out in a motor car accident coming back from Middelburg after a training accident or training exercise. So very, very sad for Van. Anyway, so then yeah, we were 7, but we didn't know what we would do. I mean, we were chased around by a very lanky major at that time, whose name also starts with an M but shall not be named. Very, very funny guy. He was also X32 because the officer commanding and the founding member of our unit got guys from wherever. So he got RSM Jimmy May, I think, stole him from Colonel Breitenbach. He stole this specific major, was a captain and became a major with us, also an operator. He stole him from 32 and a few other guys. So this major was a terrible, terrible person. As not as a person, but as a training officer. I remember we were obviously 7 Med. We did all sorts of funny stuff. So we started testing these suits, these plastic things, but it was just big rubber suits with masks and small little tiny holes. I mean, you run a few 100 yards with that, you can't see out because it fogs up. So this major would chase us up and down. We do aeroplane PT. Aeroplane PT is basically feed and beweging on Alpha Bravo and the whistle that blows and you run and you fall and you leopard crawl, you know, that but dash down crawl sights what looks sights fire or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the thing is, but dash down crawl looks sights fire. Anyway, in these suits and testing it for chemical and biological warfare. So afterwards, you are very, very tired. Obviously, you're pouring sweat. I mean, we were in a it looks like a container. You know, these containers that you put on the ships. So it was a container, but actually a shower. Shower thing was on wheels, and you could put a portable, basically shower ablution block, basically. But obviously, this thing had burglar bars on it so that nobody can get out or can get in, but you can't get out either. So this major, who shall not be named, thought it very, very funny to put a tear gas grenade into that shower block whilst we were showering after all this PT and lock the door. So now you're wet, you've got a tear gas grenade inside and you're screaming at everything, but literally everything burns. Yeah, he thought it very funny to do that, but he bought us a beer after, which was nice. Okay, so but basically that was the start of the training, but we didn't do a lot of formal training. I know the guys later on did a selection course and they did this the whole circuit 7 med training, but we never did that. We got training. It was basically called combat medical support or special forces combat medical support. That this major and the other guys. There's some guys that are orthopedic surgeons, colleagues of mine, senior colleagues of mine, which I basically saw and met, but never really spoke to because I mean we were corporals. You don't speak to the officers. You just salute them. And yeah, well, so a lot of them became they were doctors then, not specialists yet, and they became orthopedic surgeons. So then Van and I, he went. I think he stayed at 1 mil. I went to 3 mil with 5 other guys toward the end of my national service. And before we went there, we went up to somewhere. I think I was either Angola or the northern part of Southwest Africa, as it was called then. And we picked up a lot of wounded UNITA soldiers. And myself and 5 other guys, we went to 3 military hospital, which is incidentally just next door to uh, 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 one parachute battalion. So, and we had to nurse them basically. We were very secretive. Nobody was allowed into our wards. We did 12-hour shifts with one roving picket. So two guys on, 4 guys off, and then that's the way we went. So after the 12-hour shift, we went running in Bloemfontein. I came to know Bloemfontein very well and did our PT because after this, we were supposed to go to just walk out 3 more, walk into 1 bin, do your parachute course. But then unfortunate thing happened is that I was the ranking NCO for the 7 med guys, and the officer commanding 3 military hospitals, I think it was a Major Nivo. He had a misunderstanding with these NCOs, the medics, the MOs, medicals, the medics, which we never mixed with because we felt ourselves superior to them, which life learns you lessons. You're never superior to anybody. You're the same, and you have the same goal. Nevertheless, then he had a misunderstanding with these NCOs, and he basically said he banned the bar. They're not allowed to go to the bar. They've got the NCO mess. They can go eat, but they're not allowed to have beer. But our 7 med guys, we didn't understand that. We didn't think it was necessary for us to fall by his rules, and we opened the bar. I actually went to the barman room, and I got him out the room and said, "You open the bar now." He said, "But my Geneva is going to have it." I said, "My Geneva is not here. I am. We want beer, so we got beer." And I got trouble for that. Basically, got trouble for my trouble. That's my first run-in with the law. No, it's actually not. Going back to 84, sport company. these doctors, they just wanted to know about war. I said, but I can't teach you anything about war because I've never been there myself yet at that time. But Van, being a PF, he had some thunder flashes. So I remember this is 84, 85. The whole country is in a political turmoil. Everybody's scared of everything. And then I said, but we can listen what a thunder flash. We went to my room at the got the thunder flashes out, and out of the back where the stairs are, I threw 2 thunder flashes. Apparently, I nearly killed 2 corporals, girl corporals who were on their way to Savi. That was the one thing. The other thing is that the head of the bomb squad lived in the flats just opposite the college. So about 5 minutes later, the whole bomb squad is at the college. Who threw this? What happened? What the explosion? So there was me, barracks arrest. So I slept the night on the floor in the guard room because I threw thunder flashes in 1985. in the middle of the night. Anyway, so then about Nivo, so Nivo got pissed off with me at 3 Military Hospital. And about a week before we were supposed to start, uh, well, actually not a week, it was a few days before we were supposed to start, I got a train ticket from Nivo, and he said I must get out of his hospital and go back to Pretoria. So that was a train trip. Thinking back, I should have just overhauled from the train and just, booked myself into one bin. But I didn't. I was a good soldier following orders when I thought they were good. That one wasn't so good. Anyway, I went back to Pretoria and then finished as a just finished because of the 6 weeks until I clawed out, and I clawed out. That was the end of '85. So then I thought, study medicine. So I was got selected into dentistry, but that was, that didn't end so well because I'm just out the army. Uh, as I said, full piss and paraffin. And a few things happened. Firstly, I was the barman of the Landsrack Hotel's student bar. So you don't study so that much. The other thing is that the studying thing, sitting behind books for a long time and you just want to run around outside in the sunshine, that was also not for me. And then math sort of got the best of me because when I finished matric, we were basically factorizing. But when I was in matric, the standard 8s at that point in time, they started with the differentiation and integration syllabus. So when I got to university, they were differentiating and integrating. So that didn't go so well. So the plan was do dentistry after a year or two, switch over to medicine, but that didn't work. So then I went I did BSc. That was '87. But always wanting to do medicine, but not that much. So at the end of '87, or the middle of '87, toward the end, I got called up with a lot of 7 Med guys because at that point in time there were big things happening in Angola. Hooper Packer and Modular were going on in the east, and the medics were getting not shot but bitten by mosquitoes. So there's a lot of them with malaria. So they had a bit of a shortage of medics. So they called up a lot of the 7 Med guys. So after Deurgang in Pretoria, I ended up with the Van at 101 Battalion. And again, me and the authority, we clashed at 101. The first night we got to 101, some guys caught a snake, big snake, the big one. So they brought him to the sick bay, and we wanted to see what a snake does when it's given Ketalar. So we injected the snake with Ketalar, and the snake's eyes rolled and started moving from his mouth. So anyway, I got the snake, wrapped it around me like a bandolier, got the head in my hand, and I walked. But remember, a 101 Battalion had a lot of ETs, ex-terrorists that they converted to fight with their own might, and the buffalo. So I walked into the guardroom. It was the fastest that the guardroom emptied out. all these Ubambus, they just ran when they saw the snake. And out they go. So that was another barracks arrest. So I slept that night till about 2 o'clock. I slept in the guardroom in 101 Battalion. So that was my first night in 101. Then, before we deployed, Whiskey, who was Colonel Belgeman, he was the officer commanding of 101 Battalion. So we got all the cars ready and we got the Runkels mine-resistant ambulance, which we incidentally, apparently against the Geneva Convention, fitted with a 3 Browning. So anyway, Whiskey gave an order that said nobody's allowed to go out the camp, not to visit the hookah shops, and nobody's allowed to drink. Van Niekerk and I thought that these rules again don't apply to us, and we got in the Runkels. We told the lieutenant at the sick bay, we're just going to make sure the Runkels works. We went out there after thing is this. Interestingly, one of the main gate guards was a Vambo, and apparently he was adopted by one of the lieutenants or captains at 101, and his name was Notafo. Ferreira. It was in his ID book. Notafok Ferreira. What's your name? What's your name? My name is Notafok, Corporal. Notafok, your name is Notafok. Yes, the Corporal, Notafok, my name is Notafok. Look at the ID book. Anyway, so we went past Notafok and went to the cooker shop, bought some whiskey. Before we left, we asked some of the lieutenants. One apparently later committed suicide. It's a sad story. After we deployed and came back, he stayed on, and then unfortunately, apparently, anyway. So we got what we got, and then we went into the sick bay's pharmacy. The reason for that being is that they were air conditioned. I mean, it's bloody hot in the northern parts of Southwest Africa, Namibia, at that time of the year. And then we played coinage. Coinage where you drop the coin into the thing and we drank. Because we're going to go deploy now. And we 18, 19, 20 years old, we're going to deploy, we're going to die. So we just, And this one lieutenant, he didn't give us money to buy any drinks. But he wanted to play coinage as well. So he started drinking cough syrup. That didn't end well for him because later that night, before, again, I was in barracks arrest myself and Anita. We put all his limbs in plaster of Paris. So we deployed the next day. But that lieutenant, one Paplut, he was lying on the bed with his legs. And apparently he woke up 3 days later. I never saw him again when I flied out from 101. Anyway, so whilst we were having this big party and posing for photographs, which was one lieutenant, the one that I mentioned, who committed suicide apparently. He took all the photographs. Anyway, then in stormed this major because somebody at one of the tourings outside on Dangwa got trigger happy and started shooting and wounded one of his neighbor. So he runs in with the neighbor, the female. It was just a graze, which was clean and dressed. And then he said, he's major somebody somewhere. But there was, I said, not a fuck, you're not a major. You're not a colonel, you're a major. I saw you yesterday, you're a major. But today, I'm a colonel. It's 2 minutes past 12 o'clock or something. So he got very upset with us, myself and Van Niekerk. We obviously, he said, who bought the alcohol? What Van Niekerk and I? Yeah, we did it. We made the lieutenants drunk. They got a lip thrashing, and Van Niekerk and I again barracks arrest the day before we deployed. Anyway, so the next morning we are on orders on the red carpet with whiskey, Colonel Belgemoot, and he just asked us, "Are you guys from? Are you part of this guy's?" He mentioned the major's name. "Are you part of his team?" And we said, "Yes, Colonel." He said, "Just fuck off out of my office. Go away. I don't want anything to do with you guys." Because at that stage, 7 Med was allowed to wear the Special Forces beret with the insignia, with the compass rose and the infantry bulky. So we fucked off. Then Van Niekerk went to the east. He deployed to the east, and I deployed straight north. We just went all the way from Ondangwa straight north, and we operated between the basic lines of Mupa and Kubalai. Because at that point in time, the insurgents, they had breeding camps. When they started the war, and I think in the late 60s, they started breeding camps where they would take the menes and impregnate them, and then they had these young boys. The females apparently became concubines, and the men became soldiers. So they had Moscow and Typhoon battalions that were coming straight down from the north, whilst the war in the east is going on with Rupert Packard and Modular. So we went up. My officer commanding at that point in time was a captain with a call sign Mike Hotel. Mike Hotel informed us that our operation was called Chronicle, Operatie Chroniek. Well, up to this day, if I Google Operation Chronicle or Operatie Chroniek, I get Bible verses. As if we were never there. Anyway, so we operated there, and that's when a few things happened. Apart from the fact that I lost a lot of weight, because Mupa is about 200 kilometers into Angola, and Kubalai is about 60, 70 kilometers further north. And our logistics was, we were cut off from our logistics. They shot out our logistics below us, so we didn't have food. So we hunted impala with 3 Brownings. That's the sight to see. It's stupid, but we did it. We also stole a goat. So the Casper would go past the goat, and we had these toggle ropes, which we would put into a noose, and then the goat was standing next to it. You grab the goat at the horns and put him inside the Casper. So you would milk the goat for a few days and then slaughter it and eat it. We also hunted cows with R4s and R5s just to eat something. When I got back from that deployment in the middle of March of '88, I rang the doorbell at my parents' house, and my mother opened the door. She didn't recognize me at all. She said, "Hello, can I help you?" I said, "Yes, Ma, it's me." Yeah. I weighed 74 kilograms when I got back. Anyway, so I learned a few things. Firstly, that you should never judge anybody by what he looks like and what he appears to be. And I found that out from 2 guys specifically. One was Opa, who was the oldest ex-terrorist that we deployed with. Look, it was just me as the medic, and between 16 cars was Captain Mike Patel, one lieutenant, and another corporal. We were the 4 white guys, and the other guys were all black, all Wambus. What a bunch of nice guys those were. So never judge anybody by what they look like and what you might have been told by them. So Opa and I formed a very good bond. We basically slept together. You know, it was raining. We slept under the same ground sheet. And when it was cold, we used to keep each other warm. But we slept together. So basically did everything together. And the other guy was Efavali. I can distinctly remember his name, Efavali. They can't say an L, so it was Efavari. Anyway, Efavali. It said so on his name tag. So yeah, it was war is not a good place to be, but being with those guys, that's fantastic. The time served in uniform taught me a lot of lessons. That's the one thing that it taught me. The other thing is persistence. Never, never, never give up. It doesn't matter where you are. Don't give up. If you have a goal, go for it. Search for it, find it, and then just never say no. I had a diary when I came back to Service Street that I crossed out the word no. It was liberated at one of the moves from one house to the other house. So I hope that whoever liberated my diary learned something, learned some new words. Anyway, so yeah, that was my time. Flying out, came back to City Street in '88. Found out from my parents that I got selected to med school in Bloemfontein, but they couldn't get hold of me as I was in Angola, so I had to finish my BSc degree, which I did. I did all my other camps with 7 Med. One of the other interesting things that I did with 7, these 7 off you go. So there's this professor at the VNR, CSIR. He was testing tank tank jackets because, as I said, northern Namibia, southwest, and southern Angola, the whole thing bloody hot, and that the tank crews were suffering in the tanks, and the rifles as well. Although the rifles were not that bad, but the tank crews specifically got bloody hot. So I was still an NCO, and got called up for a camp. And this camp was strange. So for 2 weeks of the camp, I would go to the CSR with this Professor Joint, which they would hook me up with all sorts of electronic thingamajiggies and put a thermostat up my ass. And I would climb steps for the whole day. I watched Rambo about 7 times, I think, because that's the only video and some other videos they had. I would climb steps with this thing up my ass. And then what they would do, some days they would have a lot of these big urns that the army has to make coffee and stuff. So they would have them on boiling, take off the lid, and the whole room would just be full of steam and very, very hot. I would climb up and down and then test the jacket and without the jacket. And every single day I got this thing up my ass. It was a very, very bad experience. But RSM Jimmy May said, this is what you're going to do. So that's what I had to do. So that's what I did. Then went back eventually. After my BSc, Stellenbosch still said, no, you're not allowed to study medicine. Okay, not good. So, but I'm not going to give up on this dream because this thought to become a doctor was reinforced by my time in uniform and specifically my time in Angola. And two words that really, thinking back, that swung my mind, or not my mind, my mindset. Obrigado medico. Because at that point in time, running around between Mupa and Kuvalai, there were some contingents of special forces, which some of the bats, and then obviously some UNITA soldiers that we interacted with and deployed with. And Obrigado medico. Those two words really solidified my desire to become a doctor. So after that, I said, no, I do BSc honors. I did my honors degree. And then they still said no. And I said, I'm not going to take this. So I got onto as an unlicensed motorcycle driver, got onto my unlicensed motorcycle and drove to Tygerberg Hospital after having made an appointment with Dr. Wasserman, who was the dean of the medical faculty. So I said to him, look, I've got an honors degree in physiology. You still don't want to get me into medicine. This is nonsense, because I know of a guy that is now basically historically third year, but he hasn't passed his second year of medicine. His dad is a minister, and he's in medical school. You haven't chased him away. I've got an honors degree. I've got 70 plus marks for my honors. Why don't you? This is unacceptable. Incidentally, Koos, you have interviewed this young man before. He eventually got to 7 Med after him and I had some liquid refreshments at the Lanzerac Hotel later on in our career at medical school. And incidentally, I then got into medical school and he finished after me. We were second year together and he finished after me. But anyway, he was a model, so models are special. So he eventually went to 7, him and I. Anyway, then I got my commission at my second year of medical school. I think Colonel Stein gave me my officer's but then they wanted me to become the second in command of the chemical and biological warfare wing of 7. And I was about to get married. I'm doing medicine, and it's 91 ish. So the political playground in South Africa didn't look what it looked like in the 80s. So I refused, or not refused, I respectfully declined, which was interesting when I said to him, but Colonel, I'm a Tygerberg. You guys are in Pretoria. He said, no, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. So he went down and got a map, got the whole Tygerberg map there. He puts the map down. He says, when we need you, we'll just land the chopper right there on the rugby field. So they knew exactly. It was quite interesting. But I respectfully declined, then finished medicine. Then eventually, after applying at Tygerberg, UCT, Wits, Bloemfontein, I got into the circuit to become a specialist orthopedic surgeon in Pretoria. So that's where I still am, in Pretoria. But having said all this, if it hasn't been for my path in uniform, firstly in uniform, learning the lessons of it, and then secondly in 7 Med, because 7 Med is different. And as time goes by, I realized this more and more. When we were there, it was a newly formed unit. Nobody knew what to do with us. Nobody knew what to call us, except for Tampax Stiffy, which then eventually, or always ended up in the brawl when somebody called you that. There's always blood. They call you a Tampax Stiffy, especially when you're a 7-med medic. You know, you're fearless. But the lessons taught by the ethos, if I can call it that, the ethos of not only being in uniform, the SADF at that point in time, but being part of this different unit. We didn't see ourselves as special or anything. We were just a new unit with office commanding, bearded guy, and the ethos, you know, look after each other, never give up. Uh, no is not an answer. No is not an answer. You want something, you go for it. You know, to define what you want, firstly, then go after it with your whole heart and never take no for an answer. You know, one door closes, just take the side road and go for it. That way around. And then not giving up in your mind, but also not giving up physically. I mean, the PT we did at 7. Look, I apologize. When you become a PTI, that's a big thing. You are very, very, very fit. I mean, that's all you do. I mean, the name says it all, physical training instructor. You have to be fitter than troops all the time because you can't expect them to do something that you don't do. So that's what Dan and I did, and we led from, and the other guys as well. But the PT we did in 7 was just next level, absolutely next level. I mean, PTI course can't begin to prepare you for what lay ahead, and it was brutal. But that teaches you about yourself because when your lungs, your chest is burning, your legs are more than chilly. I mean, you've left them, your legs 10 kilometers ago, but you're still carrying on. Then there's a little space in your head that you can get into, and you just don't give up. You carry on, carry on. It becomes autonomous. Talking talking about running, Efavali and I would run on the spoor. And the first few days, because you get bored, you know, I mean, you're chasing spoor, and you say to be bored in war, maybe it's a misnomer. I don't know. But you know, you sit in the Casper and you're on the spoor the whole time. Sometimes you don't get where you want to go, and it really becomes boring to sit in the Casper the whole way because nothing's happening. You sit and you sit. So I started running with the troops. So as a medic, I gave every single guy in the four cars that we were with his own drip set, and his bomb bandages and everything. So I'm not going to carry everybody's drips. That's nonsense. You carry your own drip if you want me to put it on. Anyway, so they had the 2 needles, 2 drip sets, 1 or 2 drips bags. And then I had my Fire Force webbing with the extra magazines carrying the R5, which I would oftentimes exchange with the OPA. Kamachona in Bambu means little boy. So I would give him the Kamachona gun, and he would give me his big gun, his OPA gun. And the reason why is that the R4 rifle has a bipod. Okay, there are no toilets in Angola, but the bipod suffices. So you would take the white gold toilet paper. I would exchange rifles with him, make sure that mine is safe, his is safe, and then I would go away and do the number 2 because you could sit on the R4's bipod. Just make sure the magazine is off, otherwise the guy you give the rifle back doesn't like it. Anyway, so with, talking about running, Efavali and I would then run on the spoor. He was I was just running with him to relieve boredom. And I would see these guys run with long bending sticks that they would get from the bushes around there, and they'd clear off the leaves, and then they would run with this stick in front of them. So the first time I didn't run with the stick. I just ran with my rifle, my webbing, and whatnot. And then I asked him, what's the stick for? He said, Pom Z, Corporal. Okay, so that made a lot of sense. So Pom Z, for those that don't know, is an anti-personnel mine. that the enemy would string up on across their, covering their path with a tripwire. And then if you run in and you trip it, obviously this thing jumps out the ground and can kill you. So if you have the stick, so the pointy end, as soon and the running with it in front of you. So when the stick bends, then you know it's either a tripwire or you didn't concentrate what you were doing. So no, anyway, we're actually never giving up. Never. I mean, even when I was doing orthopedic surgery, there were some obstacles in my way. Life has this funny thing of conspiring sometimes seemingly against you. And in spite of all the conspiracies against oneself, just don't give up. I said to my officer commanding, our first officer commanding, and the founder member of our unit, 7 Medical Battalion, the other night when we spoke, and then on WhatsApp as well. We're not friends, big friends. And I just contacted him and spoke to him about it. I said if it wasn't for 7 Medical Battalion, I would not have become a doctor first and foremost. And secondly, I would never become a specialist, which I'm eternally grateful for my time in uniform. If it hadn't been for that, if it hadn't been for the thought processes, the lessons learned physically and mentally, psychologically, I would have not sit where I'm sitting today. That's what's so I'm eternally grateful for my time in uniform, eternally grateful for the lessons learned, and the fuss bait that it taught me and other guys. I mean, you speak to everybody basically from the unit still. You know, most guys when I was a Kabouter, shoe liner, corporal, PTI, they were already doctors in 7 Med. And for some reason, lots of doctors at that point in time specialized. Most of them, I think, became orthopedic surgeons. I think it's just part of the breed. I mean, every specialty has its own personality, for the lack of a better description. And I think the 7 Med personality basically gravitated most of us to orthopedic surgery. So yeah, basically, of course, that's my story. I don't know. More questions?
Yeah, I have to say to you, I always have questions, man. I was really enjoying this so much. Thank you. I just want to warn the people out here, we're not giving you medical advice, guys. Don't come with nonsense to me. If you have a medical problem, go and speak to your doctor or whoever you want to speak to. But don't hold us that we're giving you medical advice. We're not doing it. Because I'm going to ask a few medical questions as well. But the first thing I want to ask you, well, let me rather give a warning. Let me give you another warning. If you come on legacy and you start abusing these people as Tampax stiffies and God knows what else you'd call them and blah, 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 I'm going to ban you. I'm going to chase you away. Because it comes to me that these people actually are volunteers. You don't just go to a unit like 7 Med without volunteering. But then you don't just arrive. You have to pass the selection, and whatever you have to pass, you have to get there. So I'm telling you guys now, again, we're not going to allow any nonsense against the medics here. I personally actually like the medics. I have no problem with the medics.
Can I quickly interrupt you there? No, interrupt you. Personally, I don't know of any guy in 7 Med or the space doctors, the space medics, and even the guys that were ops medics that deployed, that went into Angola. We don't mind being full-time backstabbers because right in the formative phases of 7 Med, we as juniors, one-liners, two-liners, we had a thing we said to each other. Ek weet, ons weet, we know. So the guy is calling you Tampax perfect. Doesn't know what he's talking about, and you don't have to spend time, effort, or emotion on him. I would be very, very surprised if any soldier who deployed and needed the medic or saw any medic. It can be the guy at the sick bay. It can in Ondangwa. It can be the guy at at a temporary hospital, wherever. Or it can be the sharpest of us, 7 Medic. And there's a lots of guys more qualified than I am in warfare specifically. We don't mind them calling us that because these soldiers that saw the medic knew our worth or knows our worth and will not go back being insulting. So if somebody wants to call us a Tapex, that is fantastic. I mean, go for it, because it shows us it shows me what he knows and what he thinks about himself. So I wear it as a badge. Call me Tapex is fantastic, because we used to tell them when cunts like you start bleeding that I had to put the Tapex in.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this actually, doctor, because I can see it, that it's possible that somebody is looking here and he needs to stop the blood, and there is a Tapex lying around, and we're not giving medical advice. Guys, I want to say this again. But it makes sense to me that that thing is designed to stop blood. And we're all adults here. I mean, we're all married men. We understand these things. Now, what's wrong with that? I mean, surely if you can't stop the blood in any other way, just to pushing that thing right into the wound, even it's got to hurt, I'm sure. Would that be advisable or not?
Yeah, any wound, if you can stop the blood, you can, with whatever you have at hand. So if it is a Tampax, then use it. By all means, do. I mean, pressure and stopping the bleeding. And obviously, if the guy has an internal bleeding, then it's a bit of more difficult. But whatever is at hand, if it's a Tampax, if it's your shirt that you take off, fold it up and put it on there, it matters not. So yes, basically that's what we are. We don't mind, as I said just now, being called that. And yes, you can use a Tampax to stop the bleeding, pads, whatever you have at hand.
Yeah, you know, I was told that 7 medical people have more than 1,000 years of postgraduate studies behind them, if you put all together. And it struck me that all the doctors I spoke to here, all of them are specialists in some field. Was that encouraged, or is it just the nature of the beast?
Well, I wouldn't know on a psychological or a sociological level what the answer to that question is, but it would seem that certain people gravitate to certain things. I think that's universal. So the type of person that would gravitate to a unit like 7 Med and would eventually stick it out and stay and not, say, I can't do this, it's too tough and what. It's a certain person, it's a different person. It's not necessarily right, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just some people play rugby and some people play cricket. So some people become specialists, some don't. So I think it's the nature of the type of person, the tenacious, the tenacity, the what's the English word for it? The want inside to be better, to go further, to see what the envelope looks like, to see what it looks on the other side, to do things that other people haven't done. Be it right, be it wrong, I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of us that have become specialists. I think I'm the last to become a specialist. I think there's one other guy that was a kabouter, two-liner, that went through the whole thing and became a specialist. So yeah, to answer your question, it's the nature of the beast. That's basically the short answer. But it's the type of person. There's as I said, some people become gynaes, some people become orthopedic surgeons. There's a personality thing. Although we have a few gynaes in our midst that specialize. We have a lot of anesthesiologists. We have plastic surgeons. We have, I think, of all the anesthetists, of all the specialities, I think we're quite well represented there. But most of us, I think, from 7 became orthopedic surgeons for some reason. I don't know, I don't know what. But as I said, it's just the type of personality. We're not all the same, but we have the same basic mindset. If I can, I don't know if I'm making, I don't know. maybe I'm talking nonsense here. Maybe it's just the way it is and the way the universe conspired for us to be what we are. But as I said, certain people became special forces operators. Some people became chefs. It's just where you are in life, what life gives you, but also what type of person you are. Because not all of us are the same. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. Yeah, that should be my answer to that question.
I was told that orthopedic surgeons are generally speaking quite big people, big men. It's not a small doctor who will do that. Is that true? Physically, no.
Not necessarily. There's a lot of jokes about orthopedic surgeons. The short one is, the orthopedic surgeon, as strong as an ox and can almost spell it. And or for you to be selected to become an orthopedic surgeon, your biceps circumference should be larger than your IQ. Or the orthopedic surgeon at the lift, when the lift door closed and he wanted to get in, stop the doors with his head. They said, what's wrong with you? Why did you do this? I have to protect my hands, something like that. So, yeah, there are exceptions to the rule, but most orthopedic surgeons are slightly bigger than the other specialities, but there are exceptions. We have very, very nice guys that are not the rugby player look like, if you understand what I'm saying. Most orthopedic surgeons look like rugby players and have played rugby, but some of them haven't. And we have a few female orthopedic surgeons as well that are doing exceptional work. I mean, the person that says a woman shouldn't become an orthopedic surgeon should have his mind read. I don't know what it is like nowadays, but when we studied, you do 1 in 3, 1 in 4 calls, and every call is about 24 to 36 hours long, and you work your arse off. Well, you can edit as much as you want, but this is an interesting story about the South African trained orthopedic surgeon. Is that I went to a trauma orthopedic congress in Edinburgh about a year or two after I qualified. So when you qualify and when you do prepare for your final exams, you have to obviously not only know how to operate, but you have to know a lot of stuff, and you have to know a lot of research that has been done. You have to have read it, and you must be able to quote it in your final exam. So we had this one chappie that we had to quote for femoral nails. So the femoral nail is just a nail that you bang down a femur when it's broken, be it from accident or sport or falling from a height. If the femur is broken, you bang a nail in there. So the guy that we had to quote was Mr. Court Brown. He was a Scotsman. And at that point in time, he was the guy who had the most, or the series had the most femoral nails. He published his thing in England, Scotland, or the UK. But obviously, he didn't do all of those operations himself, because you're the professor and you get your people and they bring the femur to you. You don't go to the femur. So from all over England, they would go to his center because his center does the femoral nailing. So he had a series of 40 femoral nails, and obviously that's what we had to quote in our final exam. So there I am in Edinburgh, beautiful place, at the Congress for Trauma. Had my bib on, says Dr. Prins, South Africa, Pretoria, what. Here comes this short round Scotsman to me. His thing says Mr. Court Brown, University of, I don't know where he was at that point in time. He said, Dr. Prins, are you from South Africa? I said, yes, Mr. Court Brown, indeed I am. I said, have you read my article? I said, yes, Mr. Court Brown, we all had to read your article because we had to quote it in our final exam, should be asked on femoral nails, which we never were, because you don't really answer questions on trauma because you've been doing it for so long. They said, it's an interesting article, a good article. I said, yes, Mr. Court Brown, thank you. And then he said, it's 40. I said, yes, Mr. Court Brown, but I wasn't very impressed. I don't think I looked very impressed with 40. And he said, so how many femoral nails have you done? I said, Mr. Court Brown, I can honestly say I have no idea. But the most that I've done in one night was 8. And his face just dropped and he turned around and walked away. So that's what I'm getting back to my point about females in the discipline of orthopedic surgery. Any person that sticks it out must have their mind read. And the ladies that finish orthopedic surgery, you have to take your hat off to them. Not because it's more difficult for a female, but I think there are easier things for them to do should they want to do so. So if you come across a specialist orthopedic surgeon and she's female, respect all the time, respect.
I'm wondering now, since you mentioned this, I mean, when you're standing at the operating theater, I mean, this thing is at a certain height, and normally a woman is smaller than you, or tall, less long. Does this thing goes up or down, or does she stand on a box? And then I'm not being sarcastic. I want to know.
No, the answer is yes. So the bed can sit up and down. Okay. And then I mean, I'm not very tall. I'm not even 1.8 meters tall. I played hooker. I'm the short shot. So we have a KGB in my theater, kort gat bankie. So for the short shit like me. So if for instance, if you do a shoulder and the bed doesn't go down, or the shoulder is slightly higher than what you can operate on, you have a small bench that you can stand on. But by and large, the theater tables can sit up and down, yes.
Okay, thank you. No, it was just curiosity from my side. But now I need to ask you a question. I mean, you're a medical doctor, you're a compassionate man, I'm sure. I would like to believe so. So when you think back about these nervous troopies there in the Roofie ride, ever feel sorry for the guys who came after you? Because I never did. I felt they should just suffer as much as we did.
Look, it's neither here nor there. If you feel sorry for some guys, I do believe that, as I said earlier, I would not have been where I am today had it not been for my time in uniform, had it not been for my exposure. So, that's what I'm saying. Each man to his own. We have some guys in other units that we sometimes converse with or socialize with. And some of them say, but my time was tougher than yours, and I'm the better. What is it? It's not a pissing contest, guy. Come on. Your life doesn't work like that. You are where you are at a certain place, and then you have a choice. Can I do something to make it better for myself and the people around me, and what can I do to do so? So feeling sorry for the guys after me, well, we all did the same thing at different levels. I mean, as I said, later on, 7 Med had their own selection, basically, and a circuit, basically like special forces. You know, we never did. We never did. It was 85. We're crying out loud. There wasn't time. We had to work. Okay. So yes, we got some training. We did foreign weapons. We did some other stuff as well, but it was not as formal as that. So am I disenchanted by the fact that I haven't done the circuit in 7 Medical? No, I'm not disenchanted. Would I have wanted to do it? Yes, most definitely, to see what I can do in that situation. Not to sit around a Brian and say to the guy, but I did it as well. I mean, that's not that. It's not. This is not what it's like. So you have people that say, blah, blah, blah. But they are in the minority, and they are mostly laughed at when they start with that thing. So yeah.
So may I ask you, when you got to university after you done with the army, done your national service, and now you are around kids just out of a school who haven't gone to the army yet. Is there any bit of a culture clash between the two groups?
Yes and no. There's the culture clash. They don't understand. They didn't understand what we did and why we did it. Firstly, a lot of guys in my matric class as well opted to study first and hope the thing would go away and never go into uniform. A lot of them didn't. There was a bit of a, it was like the culture thing. It's just a different thought process. We thought different. We did different. And whether that was a good thing or not, I don't know. But that was the way it was. We were different. We knew we were different. We were unique in our differentness, but we did not look down on them and say, "But what do you know? You know, you don't know nothing. You're young."
Let me take you back to that lieutenant, which you guys ambushed with rank for cough syrup. I know. I've heard somewhere, you can confirm if I'm right or wrong, but this, if you drink enough cough syrup, it will stimulate your prostate or something. I mean, you will walk like soort van bakkie. Now, was he feeling the symptoms or was he just too drunk to notice?
No, the thing with the cough syrups at that point in time, I think still some of them do today, it contains codeine. Because codeine, being a morphine derivative, dries up your mucous membranes. So the cough syrup it would help basically with the drying up of that, and I think it was the codeine, and also um, in the 80s the cough syrup had a lot of alcohol in it, and some 30-40% of alcohol. So that's why he passed out. About the effect on your prostate, no, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
May I ask you, is it difficult to insert a drip in somebody who's wounded, in an injured person? Is it more difficult than when you're just taking a blood example? I've heard
It
about arteries
depends.
falling flat and things like that.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how much blood the patient has lost. Generally, it's not that difficult if the bleeding is not too much. Um, and the reason for that being, you're not fat obese with lots of fat tissue on you when you are deployed as a combat soldier. I mean, they're all young, they're all fit, the veins are very large, big, and accessible. If the patient has bled out, there's always ways to get around it. For instance, you can drip if you have a nice, strong, big ball metal needle, which we had. You just bang it into the tibia. You can do that. I've never had to do so, but it has been described that you put it into the tibia, into the bone itself, and the circulation in the bone marrow will sort out the bleeding. How what happens afterward, as far as sepsis and compartment syndrome, I don't know, but it has been described that it can be done. Incidentally, the first patient I treated after deploying, or the first we went into Angola, was a young lady. And if you have to, you can edit this out as well. She was about 13, 14 years old, and the PBS, the general population, came to our convoy and asked for medical help. A few weeks prior, one of my colleagues, I've never found out who that was, had to amputate a leg and didn't have much equipment with him, so he used a spade that he obviously sterilized in fire and whatever. So he amputated her leg with a spade, apparently. And she had a bit of wound breakdown and with a sepsis. And it was also it's not a baptism of fire, but obviously the troops that I'm deploying with, they don't know this medic. They just know he's a medic. And is he any good? Can he do anything? Can he help us when we need him? Can we trust him? Should we? And all that. Obviously, because I'm the unknown factor to them when we're deploying to war. So I got this young lady, bit of a wound breakdown, quickly dripped her, and gave her some antibiotics. And we did the dressing, and half an hour later, we were out of there because we forced the drip into her. Had a large bore cannula in her. She got her antibiotics, and then on coming out, after the time that we deployed, we came back. We went past that village again, and apparently she was doing well. Obviously, Bambus with us. They spoke to the population, and they said, oh, "Thank you to the medic. Uh, she's doing well."
But the training must have been fantastic. I mean, I've spoken to two Space Ops medics now. One sadly passed just after we spoke.
Yeah,
Ifu
he was
Maria,
my
which
trip incidentally. He was my trip apparently. I can't remember him from the ops days, but he was apparently was my trip. Very sad. Very sad. Talking about the training, yes, our training was good. I think in later years, when Seven Med decided what they wanted to be and how they would want to do all these things, the training was even better. We had the rudimentary training in ops, and then Sergeant Major Jimmy May gave us some extra training, and. But later on, I think it was even much, much, much better. I know in the beginning, we as young guys went with the doctors to morgues, did some venous cut downs, had the rudimentary anatomy lessons, and also ballistics as what the what bullets does to a body, how to handle that. Yeah. So the training in the beginning was fantastic, but I think later years, those guys, and a lot of them actually went into response medics in Civvy Street. You know, a lot of them did, and are doing exceptional work. Exceptional work, having been trained by 7 men, and also training other people, giving back, which is a very important thing. To be thankful for what you have received, and then give back. Yeah.
So they are confident young men.
Yes. Yeah. I think having passed through, I think uniform as in general, but most definitely in a unit like 7 men, it does give you a bit of confidence in yourself, because during your training, specifically the physical part thereof, you get to know yourself. I spoke about the little place in your head that you just which is off to the rest of the world. You carry on, so you do get to know yourself much better than you thought you knew yourself, and that in and by itself gives you confidence to be the best that you can be every single day. It's not always possible. Sometimes one does have self doubt. That's part of being human. But I think getting over that self doubt and without cockiness. I mean, the self confidence and cockiness is not the same. I think cockiness comes from the place where you're not certain of yourself. Whereas being certain of yourself and being confident comes from exactly that, being confident and not cocky necessarily.
Well, I think you're quite correct there, and that is why I want to bring up the other subject. The man here is a poet. So you can tell us a little bit about the poem you wrote. Because funny enough, that poem resonates with me, because one thing I see at Legacy all the time is that people do want to be recognized. In the sense, they do want to be, just that people say to him, thank you, just listen to me, listen to my story before you start judging me or whatever they did, you know, in the days before we had Legacy and we could start speaking out. So what made you write that poem called, I think, Forgotten? It was the name. What happened there?
I was Dr. Rawlins and myself were talking by WhatsApp one night, and it was at some point that one of the members of For Swartkop Sasfa passed away, and Stefan and I spoke about this and not being recognized as 7 men, you know, and it really never bothered me so much because, as I said earlier, we know. So if I know, that's enough for me. You don't have to know. If you ask me, I can give you some answers, but I'm not going to push it down your throat. But the recognition is important. I mean, in the 90s, specifically after the new dispensation in South Africa, the war and the war effort was sort of frowned upon. And what were we doing there? Why did we lose so many men? Incidentally, I think we lost more men to malaria and motor car accidents than in combat. But I don't have that figures. But to be recognized, I mean, I was a camper in Angola when I was deployed. So it happened thus. I was in Angola, then I was in 101 unit, we went back. Then I was one night in Pretoria. So 3 days from the time that I was deployed far in Angola until I was in Stellenbosch wearing shorts, barefoot and a t-shirt. That's it. No debriefing, no nothing. And you get there, you've had all these things happen, and nobody gives a shit. You know, life goes on, Civvy Street goes on. So I think that's part of it. The fact that it was frowned upon, the fact that it was criticized. I think we had a lot of us had a lot of flack for that, and to such an extent that some guys started feeling guilty. What were we doing there? Why were we there? What's happening? Must I feel guilty because society tells me to be guilty? So coming back to being recognized, I think that's a good thing. To not recognized to say we were completely right, because that depends on where you stand politically and in your head, but that doesn't matter. We did what we did. Okay, it's part of who you are. You can't undo that. And it formed you in a certain way, be that good or bad, I don't know. But and then just to get the recognition for it, say, I see you, you've done that. I don't have to thank you, I don't have to tell you well done, but I respect what you've done. It's just a thing. Recognition comes, or with recognition comes respect. And I think that's the thing that you want or wanted. Having spoken about that really doesn't matter, but that's where the whole thought come from that poem. You might have read it, and I think the sentiment is in there. It wasn't for naught what we did. Never. We did what we had to do. It's a thing, and it's done. It changed us. It shaped us. It made us who we are today. And I would like to think, I would like to hope that because we did that, we have not necessarily in uniform, but we, in a small way, have changed the world around us by having been through that, becoming what we have become, and then helping others because we are what we are. Not that we go out with a banner and a badge and say, "Look at me." That's not what we do. You do what you do.
I cannot agree more with you. So I'm going to ask you now, this is the last question, or more a statement on something. You people are actually involved with SASFA. It is the South African Special Forces Association. You are there as medical support staff. 7 members are entitled to become part of SASFA, which is a wonderful organization. They do so much good. Do you have any message for a 7-med veteran who is listening to you here and he's not part of SASFA? You want to tell him to come and join his brothers?
Most definitely. That's a short answer. But here's the thing. Because of what we spoke about earlier and the criticism that we received, and some guys not understanding how a doctor should be a soldier as well. This is not. There wasn't a Hacksaw Ridge, and we're not that guy that went to war without rifles. I mean, I said I had a 3.0 Browning on my Runcross, which was a bad idea because the Runcross in Europe is a bit higher than the Casper. But the Casper passes underneath the tree, and the 3.0 Browning takes off the tree stump. Anyway, to answer your question about 7-med guys and going to SASFA, here's the thing. Some guys, because of the criticism and the way that we were treated as 7-med, because we never knew exactly, specifically in the formative years, where do we belong? Are we medics? Are we special forces? What's going on here? And I don't think most people cared about that. But if you sit down and you think about something long enough, you'll find something to worry and criticize yourself. So guys, the 7-med guys and SASFA membership, we're not operators. Some doctors did become operators, and there's a lot of 7-med personnel that did become operators, finished the operators course and became operators, which is grand. We're not operators, we're medics. I'm a doctor now. I never was an operator, and I would never claim to have been. But we were in a unit that was different. Were we special? I really don't know. But we did different things and we did it differently. Don't be ashamed. Here's the thing. Don't be ashamed of what you did and how things. It's who and what you are. It formed you. It made you come to where you are right now. And you can't delete it. There's no delete button of the stuff you've done in your life. You know, it's like a teenage pregnancy. It happened. You have to now, raise the child, so to speak. But don't be ashamed, guys. Get into the fold of SASFA. We are recognized by the operators. We are recognized as support staff, and that's what we were. I mean, come on, guys, for crying out loud. What is our logo? Our Sissimus sort of armors. We serve the bravest and should still do so. And all of us have a lot to give, even if it's just by yourself. Just give some time, not necessarily funding or anything. But it is a special brotherhood. It is a special bond. And as I said earlier, it's never a pissing contest. I don't want to be an operator. If I had the chance, it would have been nice to give it a go. Would I have passed it? I have no idea. But it matters not to me because I've passed other stuff in my life. And so have us all. Uh, but don't be ashamed of having been to 7 Med, and don't be confused as to what you are. I think there's a lot of confusion still in some guys' minds. What did we do? What is this? Because Special Forces claimed us, and then General Knobel claimed us back, and you're not allowed to wear the maroon beret, and wear the medic beret. It was a big fight. It really doesn't matter. 7 Med has formed me, has formed a lot of other guys, and I'm surely the guys that are hesitant to join SASFA they're not ashamed of themselves, but they don't feel worthy. Why would you feel unworthy if the operators in SASFA finds you worthy? If they think that you are worthy to become a member, even if it's a support member, that's what you did. That's what we were. We were support for Special Forces. Bottom line. Don't be ashamed of that. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And if you think back on your life, I think most of us, if we think back, that we would not have achieved what we had achieved had it not been for our time spent in 7 Med. That's basically my take-home message.
I'm glad for that. Thank you. I will end this with a comment or a statement. Well, I basically say, for those people who have a problem and who don't quite understand the medical man with a rifle in his hand, it takes two sides on the Geneva Convention of War to apply that convention. And if one side doesn't do that, then you have a damn problem, mate. And I can give you 2 words, and we're going to bring out a special episode on these 2 words I'm going to say to you now. Bruce Fittler. If you don't understand what I mean by that, you're going to find out. This is a medic who got captured, most brutally tortured to death. Tortured, I'm telling you. Because they wanted to know where his unit was. He didn't break. He didn't tell them. And yes, we're going to make an episode about it. So you cannot expect me to say, well, you're a medic, the Red Cross will protect you. It will not protect you against certain people, mate. That's the problem. And that is the problem which we faced, and that's why these guys came into existence. And there is no such thing in Special Forces as a useless mouth. You're there to do a job. We're not going to carry you around. Just to be with those people are flipping great honor. Do you want to say something on my comment, Doctor, before we end this?
Bruce Fittler was one of the first guys in that September '87. I think he got captured whilst deploying with a contingent of the Bats, as well as I think 101 Battalion, where I incidentally worked as well. Just after he was captured, he was still in captivity when I deployed. Nevertheless, there's no useless mouth you have to carry yourself, and that I think is coming back to what it taught us all how to do. The funny thing about the Geneva Convention, and any convention for that matter pertaining to war, it's all nice and well sitting in a boardroom, making rules that you think are nice and blowing smoke up your own arse, writing a convention. And yes, the gentlemanly way to do and fight war would be to fight it according to the Geneva Convention. But then, if you had the Geneva Convention, it would apply it, then why fight a war at all? Because the Geneva Convention, in my mind, and war are 2 different things. You can't use them in the same. Well, that's my experience. It's not the same thing. You can't say, oh, you must do the humane thing. I understand that. There's no problem with that. But I have no qualms and still don't have any for carrying a rifle, being a Special Forces medical support orderly. And I have no qualms of either of putting that onto the Runkles, the ambulance, which the crosses were off because we saw them to be targets. And that's what the enemy would do. They would shoot the ambulance first if it was marked. So we took the crosses off, and officers and the people we deployed with at 101 also never had a problem with us mounting the 3-0. As I said, he didn't survive a week because the rigors are a bit taller than the casters were. Nevertheless, yeah. So that's my question, my answer. War and the Geneva Convention are not always compatible to each other. There is a gentleman, humane way of fighting war, but that's also something that really doesn't make sense. Humane way of fighting war. I mean, you got to kill people, which is never a good thing. Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer.
Sadly, that is true. That's what war is about. Politicians, listen up to what I'm saying to you today. The 3rd Brigade. It's all about killing. It's all about killing. And when people die, it's not, yeah, it's not an easy death either. I mean, a wounded man thrashes around, he shots, he's in pain, there's blood, there's really, unless you've seen that, don't come to me with nonsense. You will never start a war unless you've seen your own death. You know, if you've seen your own death, you will never start it. I get very worked up about this. It's easy to say, but romanticize it. There's nothing romantic about it. I tell you. Anyway, guys, you'll have to come and talk to us here at Legacy. Don't let your story pass away with you. Please come and talk to us. Contact me. Come and help us if you can. If you think you can be a presenter, man, we're going to pay you absolutely nothing because we're a charity. But, come and help us. Please come and help us and see if we can get our history in this format. It's not going to be written in this format in the books, I assure you, unless your children and grandchildren and them after them come and look at us and talk to us and can see what the stories we tell about our lives. That is going to get lost. And that is not by chance. In law, if you don't defend yourself, it stands. So in the 1990s, I saw it with my own eyes. A whole bunch of horrible books came out. I won't mention names because the one author is still very angry with me. We're talking all sorts of crap and nonsense about us. And a lot of people actually believe that nonsense because we never got back at it. So now, here's the chance. Let us come, let us tell our stories, and let them people then judge us after they listen to us, after they heard us telling our stories. So thank you to all of you, and God bless until we meet again.
God bless, Chris. Thanks a lot.